Hey there boys, today we're going to be looking at the top 10 crafted weapons in the game right now. If you're not sure what patterns you should be chasing right now, this video is definitely for you, but even if you do already own all the patterns, you might find a new use case or a new use for a weapon you didn't know was good, so make sure you stick around to the end. And first things first, surprising absolutely nobody, is going to be Forbearance. This gun has pretty much always been one of the best ag clear weapons in the game, or even the best in a lot of cases. Even after the double special nerf, which reduced the heavy ammo economy we got by using double special, it's still considered really good purely for its potency in destroying ads. The other main benefit it has is being a special weapon. It can be switched off of to another special weapon and maintain its ammo, which is really good in something like a raid where you might want to dedicate all three of your weapons to DPS. When you do go to craft it, make sure that you pick up Chain Reaction and Ambitious Assassin. The perks combined are absolutely insane, and you can see in the background gameplay why. You can get Forbearance from Vow of the Disciple. Whenever it's the weekly raid, you can farm Caretaker or Rolk to get it, or you can also just do a run every week and get the guaranteed red border at the end. However you want to do it, I highly recommend getting Forbearance. It is considered by many to be one of the best weapons in the game. Next up, we have to talk about Apex Predator. This is pretty much the best overall rocket launcher in the game right now. It has absolutely insane DPS, it has great total damage, it's pretty much the best element in the game, and it pretty much has every desirable perk you could ever ask for on a rocket launcher. To really put it in perspective, I actually have 5 Apex Predators crafted and enhanced in my vault, because there's just that many good combinations of the rocket. Your typical god roll for Apex is going to be the reconstruction and bait and switch combo. This is definitely universally the best setup. It works in most situations. This combination makes it extremely friendly for setting up damage rotations, and there are all kind of different configurations you could use to get the most out of it. Some very common setups are just Merciless Apex, Sniper Apex, or Shotgun Apex. But if you're feeling lazy, you could still just proc bait and switch and dump this thing and then follow up with a fusion, and you'll still have very good damage just because the damage per shot is so high. If you are looking to get this gun, you'll have to do Last Wish for it. You can also get it from the Wish tokens this season until the end of the season. If you're a free-to-play player, I highly recommend spending your Wish tokens on Apex. It's pretty much the best gun in the game, and it's probably not going anywhere. As for right now, there is also an Out of Bounds in the Dreaming City, which lets you reach the Last Wish secret chest before Shirochi, so you can also use that to get patterns for Apex and Supremacy. This is what I was doing before they released the Wish tokens on my alt account before I had the DLC. Really quickly, before we continue with the video, I want to thank everybody who's been watching the videos. It means a lot to me. My absolute favorite thing is getting to read comments, so make sure to leave a comment with your thoughts below on the video here. And without any further ado, let's get into the next weapon, the Path of Least Resistance. And up next, we're going to be looking at Path of Least Resistance. This one might be one that people could argue isn't good, however it has a utility use case that I think is just unbeatable. I know a lot of people aren't that interested in utility, but utility really is super important in the endgame, especially if you want to start doing things quicker. And especially right now, since we already have a lot of ag clear covered with our abilities, we typically don't need to also have ag clear weapons, which typically would free us up for at least one utility weapon. Path of Least Resistance is mostly known as being the trace rifle that has shoot to loot. We actually had another trace rifle which could get shoot to loot in the past, however it has since been fumbled away and is no longer obtainable. And I would definitely agree, shoot to loot is pretty much the only perk in the third column on this weapon, and then it's pretty much down to the user's choice between either Harmony or Volt Shot. It kind of is up to preference. If you're not sure why shoot to loot is such a good perk, I actually have an entire video covering it because it is a much more complicated perk than people realize. If that is something you're interested in, I'll leave a link to it in the description below. While this weapon is somewhat specialized in Cenotaph Warlocks, because they are so powerful for GMs right now, and because you can still make great use of shoot to loot on other characters in general use cases as well, I still highly recommend getting this weapon. And if it is a weapon that you're going to go for, you'll have to wait for the Seraph Shield Weekly Rotator, which comes around every 3 weeks. Because it's such a pain in the ass to farm for, this is actually a weapon I would recommend using your harmonizers on, as you get regular versions of it. You could also buy 5 copies from Zur and harmonize those, so keep an eye out for him, he might just have what you're looking for. Fourth on the list, we're going to be looking at Supremacy. Supremacy is a sniper which a lot of people might be turned off by because overall I don't think snipers are all that great in the current meta. However, Supremacy is by far the most unique and most powerful sniper in the game right now. It has a couple of really good configurations that I highly recommend crafting. I actually own 2 right now, and I'm even considering getting a third for a third configuration. Keeping it simple, Supremacy is the only sniper in the game with access to kinetic tremors, and also the only sniper in the game with access to bait and switch. Both of these are the 4th column perk options, and in the 3rd column you could pair rewind rounds with it, which is a very good perk combination for these two. And with kinetic tremors, rewind rounds actually applies on the kinetic tremors, which means that you basically will never have to reload the weapon as long as you are spacing out the shots. If you don't know, enhanced kinetic tremors on the Supremacy is pretty much considered a 65% damage buff as long as you're spacing out these shots. However, because you do have to space out these shots, this is meant to be sort of a filler thing, sort of like shooting off a Wither Horde. Increasing the similarities to Wither Horde, you can only have one person's kinetic tremors applied at the same time, so it is not advised to have multiple people using kinetic tremors at the same time. On the other hand, you could also get bait and switch, which is currently the best damage buff we have available on snipers. And with bait and switch, it becomes a very good burst weapon itself. However, it will blow through its ammo very quickly because it does unfortunately have 4 times the charm in the wrong column. And just to bust a common myth, no 4th times the charm in rewind rounds is not actually an effective setup, it's just a goofy little setup to never stop shooting. If you're looking for a good long-range weapon, I can't suggest Supremacy enough. It's by far the best sniper in the game and a very effective weapon overall. If you are going to be going for the Supremacy, remember it is in the same pool as Apex, so the same ways to get it applies. If you are relying on the wish tokens entirely, I recommend getting Apex instead of Supremacy. However, I highly recommend both if you're willing to do any raids or do the out-of-bounds chest. And next up on the list, we're going to be looking at one of the most acclaimed fusions in the game, and that is the Scatter Signal. Scatter Signal, I would say, is probably the best fusion rifle in the game at this moment. While fusion rifles as a whole don't have amazing DPS, this one by far is the best, and they still have a very good source of lazy damage and non-crit damage. A lot of people don't like putting in the effort of using shotguns and snipers to get more damage and end up just using fusion rifles, and this is probably the best one to do so whenever you can make it work. While it is unfortunately not solar, which leaves Cartesian coordinate often being used over it, it is still a very good choice if you have the freedom to use a strand weapon. This one gets access to overflow and controlled burst together, which is a very powerful perk combo, as any magazine overflowing perk is with controlled burst. When you craft it and enhance it, overflow increases the magazine even farther than 100%, making it even more powerful. So if you are going to be going for this, by far the best role is going to be overflow and controlled burst. I know when the gun first dropped, I believe Legolas was spreading that slice is a good perk for it. However, I would not recommend that since you typically don't want to put utility on your DPS weapons. If you were to go for a slice weapon, I would instead use a utility weapon and do damage with a different weapon. That being said, still a very strong weapon, and overall I do highly recommend crafting it so that you do have a good fusion in your arsenal. Scatter Signal is available as a Season of the Wish weapon, so you can get it from the Season Pass right now and turning in the Season of the Wish engrams. You can also get some Season of the Wish engrams for free, and you might be lucky enough to get a well-rolled scatter, however it is very unlikely that you'll end up being able to craft it. If you are a free-to-play player chasing this weapon, you'll have to do the blind well every week, and make sure you turn in the seasonal quest thingy that gives you an extra seasonal engram for completing blind well each week, and you pretty much just do 1 or 2 runs each week and you'll get one of the weapons. Anyway, that's going to do it for the video. Thank you so much for watching, I appreciate you all, and I hope to see you in the next one. Bye bye!